Hello everybody, it's Haj here. In my last video, I say that I sold my Nikon Z8 camera, and I also mentioned that I bought my dream lens, which is this Nikon 800mm f5.6 EFL VR lens, also known as the baby Jesus for its miraculous performance. I already have a 600mm f4 lens, but I often use it with a 1.4 teleconverter. The image quality from that combo, wide open, is still good enough, at least for my taste. But sharpness peaks between f8 and f11. The autofocus, on the other hand, slows down a bit and also become a little bit less reliable. And that is where the baby Jesus brings its miracle. This 800mm f5.6 FL lens is known to be as sharp as a lens could be, even wide open at 5.6. And it focuses as fast as any other super telephoto prime lenses. And if the reach of 800mm is not enough for you, then the lens comes with its dedicated individual specific 1.25 teleconverter, which then turns the lens into a 1000mm f7.1 lens. In this video, I will talk about my personal views and opinions on this lens. I will use it with my Z9 and my precious D850. However, I will not talk much about lens sharpness though. Sorry for all of you pixel people out there. The reason is that it is a 20 grand launch price lens. It is more than sharp even with the dedicated 1.25 teleconverter or the standard 1.4 teleconverter. Anyone saying otherwise either never use Nikon Super Telephoto prime lens, or maybe their copy is broken. But before I dive into my detailed review of this lens, I will explain first why I got this older 800mm FL lens instead of the newer 800mm PFC mount lens. Yes, this lens was introduced back in 2013. The 800mm PF is newer, and nowadays things are changing faster than ever. Some people will change their phone twice a year or even more often than that. But when it comes to profi grade prime lenses, even my 23-year-old 600mm f4 is still working strong and keeps delivering amazing images. The PF lens is, yes, lighter, almost half the weight of this FL lens, but if I can handle my 5.5 kilo 600mm f4, then I should not have a problem with the weight of this lens as well. Also, as a Z-mount lens, the PF lens is only compatible with mirrorless cameras. And as I mentioned again and again in each of my videos, I'm not ready to say goodbye to my D850 yet. Actually, I was even testing this lens with my D850 and the Z9. In addition, maybe not the most important things, but it is there, the FL lens is actually a third of stop faster than the PF lens. One might say a third of stop is nothing, but in that case, the FL lens can be viewed as a 1000mm f7.1, which is just a third of stop slower than the PF lens. It's just a matter of perception. I like to look at the cup as half full, while others look at it as half empty. But the main reason why I chose the FL lens instead of the PF lens is cost. The PF lens would have cost me an extra 1.5 grand, and believe me or not, I was already at the limit that I could spend. So for all those reasons, I find the 800mm FL to be the right lens for me. And that's out of the way. Let's move on to my detailed review on this lens. First of all, 800mm is a lot of focal length. It feels like looking for the subject through a keyhole. The angle of view is almost just 3 degrees. So if you already struggle finding your subject with, let's say, a 500mm lens, then this lens will bring you nothing but frustration. Attached the dedicated teleconverter, and the angle of view is only 2 degrees. It delivers then 20 times zoom power than the standard 50mm lens. But with great power comes also great responsibility. This is not an inconspicuous lens. It is huge, and it is 62 centimeters in length once the lens hood is attached, and 16 centimeters in diameters. It weighs almost 5 kilo once the lens hood is also attached, and it is a lens to be used almost exclusively on a heavy-duty tripod, or at least a good monopod. However, once on a tripod, handling the lens is just a piece of cake. But I'm not saying that hand-holding the lens is not possible though. This lens adopted Nikon's new design. It is not front-heavy like Nikon's non-FL super telephoto lenses. For example, my 600mm f4 is so front-heavy that there is just no way for me to hand-hold it properly, even though it's just half a kilo heavier. I could lift and hold this 800mm FL lens on my eye for a few seconds, but this is not the way to photograph wildlife. It will just make you take snapshot before your hand get too tired, or just to spray and pray. In reality, one might need to wait minutes or hours before the animal shows up or does something interesting. But if you are really not a monopod or tripod person, the way that worked for me was to use my knee to support the lens, or lie flat on the ground and rest my elbow on the ground. But I'm a small person. Other people might be able to handhold the lens longer. And talking about handholdability, the vibration reduction on the lens is just amazing. I took, for example, this picture handheld at 1/125th of seconds, and this flower again handheld at 1/80th a second. The vibration reduction has 2 modes, active and normal. I just left mine most of the time on normal, but if you plan to use a very slow shutter speed and pan the action, then changing to active mode might be the better option. The lens new design also allowed the position of the lens collar and the lens foot more towards the rear of the lens, and also allowed the use of a longer one-part lens hood as opposed to the old design 2-part lens hood on non-FL lenses. Unfortunately, the lens foot is still not Arca Swiss compatible. Although it has a nice cushion for carrying the lens, I ended up replacing it with Arca Swiss compatible foot. One new feature that this lens also brought into Nikon's super telephoto lenses is the electromagnetic control diaphragm, which according to Nikon allows more accurate control on the aperture when shooting at fast frame rates. And talking about compatibilities, if 1000mm is not enough, the 800mm FL lens is compatible with Nikon's teleconverters, such as the TC14E version 1, 2, and 3, the TC17, which only have one version, the version 2, and the TC20E version 1, 2, and 3. But keep in mind though that teleconverter will degrade image quality and autofocus performances. The higher the power of the teleconverter, the more it degrades image quality and autofocus performance. Even the dedicated matched 1.25 teleconverter, although it appears to not have any visible impact on image quality, it actually slows the autofocus a little bit and reduces also the accuracy, especially on DSLR camera like the D850 that I was using. A mirrorless camera like the Z9 on the other hand seems to tolerate teleconverters more than DSLR cameras. But still, even with those high-end mirrorless cameras, I noticed a slowdown on the autofocus and a drop on the autofocus accuracy once the teleconverter is actually attached on the lens. Those are part of the reason why the 600mm f4 with TC14 or the 500mm f4 with TC17 or the 400mm 2.8 with TC20 will never match the image quality and the autofocus performance of this 800mm FL lens. The thing with teleconverter is most of the time we use them inappropriately, me myself included. We tend to use teleconverters because the subject is too far away. But the thing is, the greater the distance between our camera and the subject, the less detail the lens can see, but also more atmospheric haze lies between our subject and the camera. The closer the subject, the better the result from a teleconverter. And this is why macro lenses still give impressive detail with 2x teleconverters, for example. And finally, and this is not about this lens per se, but about the Z9. Since firmware version 4, I noticed that my Z9 exhibits sometimes strange behavior. The camera detects the subject and also confirms focus, but the picture is not in focus. Could it be that the lens can't keep up with the camera because of the extra connection made by the FTZ adapter? Or did Nikon stop testing their firmware on F-mount adapted lenses? It is sad if that's the case, because we photographers who are still hanging on our F-mount lenses will not have then the best out of our cameras. Personally, I'm a gear addict. I have gas, but there is just no way for me to afford a 15 or 17 grand Z-mount lens. If my F-mount lenses start to not work properly with the Z9, and then I will instead sell the Z9 and get a second D850 or D5 or D6. Anyway, that is for this video. I hope you find it useful, and until next time then, bye.